What if I told you that detaching from overwhelming emotions doesn't have to leave you feeling empty or cold? In fact, it could be the key to finding a deeper sense of peace and clarity. Many of us have been in situations where emotions feel like a tidal wave, pulling us under and leaving us desperate for a way out. But here's the thing, detachment, when approached the right way, isn't about shutting down or numbing yourself. It's about creating space to respond, not react. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This video will explore how to detach in a way that strengthens your inner calm without sacrificing your emotional depth. We'll dive into practical Stoic practices that help you balance detachment with inner peace, showing you how to navigate life's challenges with clarity and resilience. If you've ever wondered how to let go without losing yourself, you're in the right place. The Stoic philosophy of detachment traces its origins back to ancient Greece and Rome, where thinkers like Epictetus and Seneca began to explore the idea of focusing on what we can control while letting go of what we cannot. For them, detachment wasn't about shutting off emotions or becoming indifferent to the world. Instead, it was a way to cultivate inner peace by redirecting our energy toward the things that truly matter: our thoughts, actions, and responses. Epictetus famously said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This principle echoes through the centuries, offering a timeless framework for navigating life's uncertainties. Seneca, too, emphasized the importance of detaching from outcomes, reminding us that much of what we worry about is beyond our influence. In today's fast-paced world, this ancient wisdom feels more relevant than ever. Think about the stress of modern life: deadlines, relationships, financial pressures. What if, instead of letting these external factors dictate our emotions, we focused on how we choose to engage with them? How might viewing detachment as a tool for clarity rather than emotional emptiness change your approach to life? Emotional detachment, as Stoics teach, isn't about shutting down or ignoring your feelings. It's about observing them with clarity, like watching clouds pass in the sky, acknowledging their presence without letting them dictate your actions. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," reminding us that while emotions are real, they don't have to control us. This practice allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. On the other hand, emotional emptiness is something entirely different. It's a sense of disconnection, a numbness where you might feel cut off from your emotions entirely. While detachment empowers you, emptiness leaves you feeling hollow. Take a moment to think about how you handle criticism at work. Do you feel overwhelmed, defensive, or even shut down completely? This is where Stoic detachment can make a difference. Instead of letting criticism trigger anger or self-doubt, you can pause, observe your emotional response, and choose how to proceed. Maybe you'll decide the feedback has merit and use it to improve, or perhaps you'll recognize it as unfounded and let it go without taking it personally. The key is to remain grounded, neither suppressing your emotions nor being swept away by them. How do you currently approach emotional challenges like this? Could stepping back and observing your feelings help you respond with greater clarity and purpose? When life doesn't go as planned, like when a long-awaited event gets cancelled, it's easy to feel frustrated or even defeated. But what if you could turn that frustration into an opportunity for growth? This is where cognitive reframing, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, comes into play. At its core, cognitive reframing is about shifting your perspective to focus on what's within your control, rather than fixating on what's not. Instead of dwelling on the disappointment of a cancelled plan, you might ask yourself, what can I do with this unexpected free time? This simple mental shift can transform frustration into clarity and even gratitude. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. By reframing your thoughts, you're not denying the disappointment, you're choosing to see it through a lens of possibility. So, what's one situation in your life where you could practice this kind of mental shift? How might viewing it differently change the way you feel and respond? One of the most powerful tools in Stoic philosophy for achieving detachment without emptiness is the practice of presence, being fully immersed in the moment. Stoics believed that much of our emotional turmoil stems from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, neither of which we have control over. By focusing our attention on the here and now, we can reduce unnecessary stress and cultivate a sense of calm clarity. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This simple yet profound advice highlights the importance of directing our attention to the task at hand, rather than being swept away by distractions or anxieties. Consider this: when you're overwhelmed with worry about an upcoming event, your mind races through countless what-if scenarios, many of which will never come to pass. The Stoic approach would be to pause, ground yourself in the present moment, and ask, what can I do right now? Maybe it's preparing for the event, or maybe it's simply acknowledging that the future is uncertain and beyond your control. By observing your thoughts without judgment, you create space to detach from them emotionally, freeing yourself from their grip. To bring this into your daily life, try a simple exercise. The next time you feel anxious or distracted, take a few deep breaths and focus intently on your immediate surroundings. Notice the details, the sounds, the textures, the sensations. This practice of mindfulness, rooted in Stoic principles, helps you anchor yourself in the present, reducing the pull of external worries and fostering a sense of internal stability. It's not about ignoring your emotions, but rather observing them with a calm, detached perspective. Through presence, you can detach without losing your sense of self, finding balance in the midst of life's chaos. One of the most liberating ideas in Stoicism is the distinction between what we can control and what we can't. The Stoics believed that true freedom comes not from trying to manipulate everything around us, but from accepting what lies beyond our influence. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he meant is that our struggles often come from resisting things we can't change, rather than accepting them and focusing our energy where it truly matters. Think about a scenario many of us face daily: being stuck in traffic. No matter how much you wish the cars ahead would move faster, no matter how much you honk or feel frustrated, the traffic isn't going to change because of your actions. What you can control, however, is how you respond to it. You could choose to listen to a podcast, practice deep breathing, or simply use the time to reflect. By shifting your focus to what's within your power, you transform a stressful situation into an opportunity for calm or growth. This principle applies to so much more than traffic. Relationships, work challenges, even global events, so much of life is shaped by forces outside our control. Yet, when we learn to accept this reality, we free ourselves from the weight of trying to change the unchangeable. Instead, we can direct our energy toward areas where we can make a real difference. So take a moment to reflect. What's one thing you've been trying to control that you might need to accept? It's not about giving up or being passive. It's about choosing where to invest your energy wisely. When we stop fighting against the inevitable, we create space for peace, clarity, and meaningful action. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This idea is at the heart of Stoic Resilience, a quality that doesn't just help us endure life's challenges, but allows us to detach from them in a way that preserves our emotional balance. Resilience isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending hardship doesn't exist. Instead, it's about facing difficulty with clarity and calm, knowing that while we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. Think about a tough conversation you've had, maybe with a coworker, a friend, or a family member. In those moments, it's easy to get swept up in frustration or defensiveness. But resilience helps us step back, focus on what really matters, and respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. It's not about avoiding the discomfort, but about moving through it with intention. So, what does resilience look like in your life? Is it the ability to stay grounded when things don't go as planned, or maybe it's finding calm in the middle of chaos? Whatever it is, cultivating this kind of inner strength can be a powerful tool for healthy detachment, helping us face life's challenges without losing ourselves in the process. One of the most powerful tools the Stoics offer for detaching without slipping into emotional emptiness is the practice of gratitude. It might sound simple, but this ancient principle has profound effects on how we see the world and ourselves. The Stoics believed that by focusing on what we already have rather than what we lack, we can cultivate a sense of abundance and inner peace, even in the face of loss or change. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This reminder to appreciate the present moment is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, helping us detach from external outcomes without feeling hollow. So, how does gratitude work in practice? It starts with a shift in perspective. When we take time to acknowledge the good in our lives, no matter how small, we train our minds to focus on positivity rather than scarcity. This doesn't mean ignoring challenges or hardships. It's about balancing our view of the world so we don't become consumed by negativity. One practical exercise you can start today is keeping a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be monumental. Maybe it's a kind word from a friend, a moment of quiet in the morning, or even the warmth of sunlight on your face. Over time, this practice can rewire your brain to notice and appreciate the good around you, creating a sense of fulfillment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Why not give it a try? Start small and see how this simple act of reflection can shift your mindset. By cultivating gratitude, you're not just detaching from what you can't control, you're actively building a foundation of inner peace and resilience. Seneca once said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." This profound idea captures the essence of Stoic detachment, not as a withdrawal from life, but as a way to build inner strength by reducing our reliance on external validation. Think about it. How often do we tie our self-worth to the approval of others? Whether it's the praise of a boss, the admiration of peers, or even the fleeting likes on social media, we've become conditioned to seek validation outside ourselves. But here's the thing, when we detach from these external measures, we unlock a deeper, more unshakable confidence. Take rejection, for example. It stings, doesn't it? Whether it's a job application, a relationship, or even a creative project, rejection can feel like a personal blow. But what if we shifted our perspective? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control, our effort, our intent, our response, and let go of the outcome. Detaching from the need for acceptance doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop letting others define our worth. Instead of seeing rejection as a failure, we can view it as an opportunity to refine our skills, strengthen our resolve, and grow. This kind of detachment isn't about isolating ourselves or becoming indifferent. It's about cultivating inner resilience so that we're no longer swayed by every opinion or setback. When we detach, we're free to act with authenticity, guided by our own values rather than the expectations of others. So, here's a question to reflect on. How might detaching from others' opinions change the way you see yourself? Imagine the freedom of knowing your worth isn't tied to anyone else's approval. What could you achieve if you stopped seeking validation and started trusting your own inner compass? It's a common misunderstanding that Stoic detachment means shutting off your emotions or becoming indifferent to the world around you. But in reality, Stoicism isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about finding a balance. Think of it this way: you can care deeply for others without letting their struggles consume you. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, once said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This isn't a call to be harsh or distant. It's a reminder to approach life with kindness while maintaining your own emotional boundaries. Let's say a close friend is going through a tough time. A Stoic approach doesn't mean you turn away or tell them to just deal with it. Instead, you offer your support, your presence, and your compassion. But here's the key: you don't take on their pain as your own. You don't let their crisis disrupt your inner peace or sense of stability. This balance between empathy and detachment allows you to be there for others in a meaningful way without losing yourself in the process. So, where do your boundaries lie? Are you someone who tends to absorb the emotions of others, leaving you drained or overwhelmed? Or do you struggle to connect on a deeper level, fearing it might pull you in too far? These are questions worth reflecting on, not as a judgment but as an opportunity to grow. Because true Stoic wisdom teaches us that we can care deeply while staying grounded, that kindness and self-control aren't opposites but partners in living a balanced, fulfilling life. Stoicism teaches us that our attachment to material possessions often becomes a source of unnecessary anxiety, tying our peace of mind to things we can't fully control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that true abundance isn't found in what we own, but in our ability to let go of what we don't truly need. Material goods, after all, are impermanent. They can break, wear out, or be taken away. When we cling too tightly to them, we give them power over our happiness. Consider the modern practice of decluttering. Many people today are embracing the idea of living with less, not because they have to, but because they've discovered how freeing it can be. By letting go of excess belongings, we make space both physically and mentally for what truly matters. It's not about rejecting comfort or convenience, but about recognizing that possessions are tools, not anchors. When we stop defining our worth by what we own, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of contentment. Take a moment to reflect. What's one possession you could detach from to feel freer? Maybe it's an item you've been holding onto out of habit or sentimentality, or something you've been chasing but don't really need. Detaching doesn't mean abandoning. It means choosing to prioritize your inner peace over external objects. When we practice this kind of detachment, we're not losing anything, we're gaining the clarity and freedom to live more intentionally. One of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit for cultivating detachment is journaling. Seneca, the great Roman Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." This isn't just a lofty idea, it's a practical call to reflect deeply on our experiences, emotions, and reactions. Journaling offers us a way to do exactly that. By putting pen to paper, we create a space to process our thoughts, untangle our feelings, and gain a clearer perspective on what truly matters. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about observing them with a sense of calm distance, like watching clouds pass across the sky. A simple yet effective exercise to start with is to write about a challenge you faced during the day. Instead of dwelling on the frustration or anger it might have caused, ask yourself, how could I view this differently? What can I learn from this situation? This practice of reframing helps us see obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than sources of distress. Over time, it trains the mind to approach life's ups and downs with greater equanimity. So how might journaling help you? Imagine having a tool that allows you to step back from the whirlwind of emotions, to pause and reflect instead of reacting impulsively. It's like having a conversation with your wiser self, one that reminds you of your values and priorities. By making this a regular habit, you'll likely find that detachment becomes less about feeling empty and more about feeling grounded, centered, and in control. Why not give it a try tonight? Take a few moments to write about something that's been on your mind and see how it shifts your perspective. The practice of detaching from negative thoughts begins with understanding that thoughts themselves are not the problem, it's how we respond to them. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most prominent figures, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound idea suggests that while we can't always control what thoughts arise, we can control how we engage with them. Instead of letting a negative thought dictate your emotions or actions, the Stoic approach is to observe it with curiosity, as if it were a passing cloud in the sky. Think about self-doubt, for example. When that inner voice whispers, "You're not good enough," it's easy to get swept up in it, replaying the thought over and over until it feels true. But what if, instead of wrestling with it or letting it define you, you simply acknowledged it? You might say to yourself, there's self-doubt again. I see you, but you don't have to stay." This act of detachment doesn't mean ignoring the thought or pretending it doesn't exist. Instead, it's about creating space between you and the thought so it loses its grip on your emotions. Over time, this practice can help clear mental clutter, making room for calmer, more constructive thinking. It's not about eliminating negativity entirely, that's nearly impossible, but about changing your relationship with it. So here's a question to reflect on. What's one negative thought you could detach from today? By identifying it and choosing not to let it control you, you take the first step toward a more peaceful, focused mind. Let's talk about self-discipline and its role in detachment. The Stoics believed that mastering our impulses is the cornerstone of emotional freedom, and this is where self-discipline comes into play. It's not about suppressing emotions, but rather about creating space between what we feel and how we choose to respond. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." These words remind us that true freedom comes from controlling our reactions, not from trying to control the world around us. Think about it this way. When we act on impulse, we're often driven by fleeting emotions, anger, frustration, or even excitement. But when we exercise self-discipline, we pause. We take a moment to reflect and act with intention. This intentionality is what allows us to detach without losing our sense of self. It's not about becoming indifferent, it's about becoming deliberate. Here's a practical example. Imagine you've committed to a daily morning routine. Maybe it's meditation, exercise, or journaling. On some days, you might feel tempted to skip it, whether because you're tired, busy, or just not in the mood. But sticking to that routine, even when it's hard, is an act of self-discipline. It's a way of saying, I'm in charge of my actions, not my emotions. Over time, this builds a sense of inner stability, making it easier to navigate life's ups and downs without feeling overwhelmed. So consider this. Where in your life could a little more self-discipline help you detach from emotional turbulence? It might be in your habits, your relationships, or even the way you approach challenges. The goal isn't perfection but progress, small, consistent steps toward mastering your impulses and reclaiming your peace of mind. One of the most pervasive struggles in modern life is the relentless pursuit of perfection. We're bombarded with images of flawless achievements, seamless lives, and unattainable standards, leaving us feeling inadequate or anxious when we inevitably fall short. But what if we could free ourselves from this pressure? Stoicism offers a powerful tool for this very challenge: detachment. not detachment as cold indifference, but as a way to release the emotional grip of perfectionism and embrace the beauty of imperfection. Seneca once said, "We are not given a good life or a bad life. We are given a life, and it is up to us to make it good." This wisdom reminds us that perfection isn't the goal, it's about finding value in the messy, imperfect journey. Imagine this, you're at work and you make a mistake. Maybe it's a missed deadline, an error in a report, or a miscommunication with a colleague. For many of us, the immediate reaction is panic, a rush of embarrassment, fear of judgment, or even self-criticism. But what if, instead of spiraling into anxiety, you paused and practiced Stoic detachment? You could acknowledge the mistake, take responsibility where needed, and then let go of the emotional weight. By detaching from the need to be perfect, you free yourself to focus on solutions rather than dwelling on the error. It's not about avoiding accountability, it's about refusing to let the fear of imperfection paralyze you. Detaching from perfectionism isn't about lowering your standards or giving up on growth. It's about shifting your mindset to see challenges as opportunities for learning rather than threats to your self-worth. When you stop equating your value with flawless performance, you create space for resilience, curiosity, and even creativity. So here's a question to reflect on. How might letting go of perfectionism change your approach to challenges? Could it help you face setbacks with calm and courage, knowing that imperfection is not a failure but a natural part of being human? The Stoics understood something profound about the human experience. Nature has a unique ability to ground us and offer perspective. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, once reflected, "Look at the stars, how they endure, how they remain constant in their course. Consider their beauty, their order, their balance, and yet they do not seek your praise." This simple yet profound observation reminds us of our place in the vastness of the universe, a perspective that can help us detach from the trivial concerns that often consume us. When we immerse ourselves in nature, whether it's a walk in the woods, a moment by the ocean, or even watching the sunrise, we're reminded of the cycles of life that have been unfolding long before us and will continue long after. The Stoics saw this connection as a way to release the grip of ego and emotional turmoil. By observing the natural world, we're invited to see our problems as small in the grand scheme of things, not to diminish their importance, but to put them in their proper context. Here's a practical exercise inspired by Stoic wisdom. Make time to be in nature regularly. It doesn't have to be a grand adventure. Something as simple as sitting in a park or tending to a garden can work wonders. As you do, take a moment to reflect on how it makes you feel. Does it bring a sense of calm? Does it help you let go of worries, even if just for a while? This connection to nature isn't just about escaping your emotions, it's about finding clarity and peace within them. Think about it. When was the last time you truly allowed yourself to be present in the natural world, free from distractions? How did it shape your emotional state? These moments of connection can become a powerful tool in your journey toward detachment, not as a way to shut out the world, but to engage with it more meaningfully. Social media has become a central force in our lives, but it's essential to recognize how it shapes our emotions and sense of self. As Epictetus wisely said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, focus on what truly matters, not on the fleeting validation or noise of the online world. Detaching from social media doesn't mean abandoning it entirely. It's about creating a healthier relationship with it. Start by setting clear boundaries. Maybe limit your screen time to specific hours or designate certain days as offline days. Notice how scrolling affects your mood. Do you feel anxious after comparing yourself to others? Does endless news consumption leave you drained? These are signals that it might be time to step back and reclaim your focus. Remember, you control your attention, not the algorithm. By consciously choosing where to direct it, you can reduce emotional turbulence and reconnect with what genuinely enriches your life. So, take a moment to evaluate your social media habits. Are they serving you, or are they pulling you away from your values and peace of mind? One of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers for detaching without emptiness is the practice of negative visualization. This isn't about dwelling on pessimism or fear, it's about training the mind to appreciate what we have by confronting the possibility of losing it. As Seneca once wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." In other words, by imagining the absence of what we cherish, whether it's a person, a possession, or even our own health, we can develop a deeper sense of gratitude and reduce our dependency on external things for happiness. Think about your closest relationships for a moment. What if, just for a few seconds, you allowed yourself to imagine life without that person? It's uncomfortable, even painful, but this exercise isn't meant to distress you. Instead, it's designed to sharpen your awareness of how much they truly mean to you. When we take these moments to reflect on the fragility of life, we often find ourselves more present, more attentive, and more appreciative of the time we have with them. It's a way of reminding ourselves that nothing is permanent, and that awareness can transform how we engage with the world around us. Here's a challenge for you. Try this practice today. Whether it's a loved one, your career, or even something as simple as your morning coffee, spend a moment imagining it's no longer part of your life. Notice how that shifts your perspective. Do you feel a deeper sense of gratitude? Does it help you let go of minor frustrations or anxieties? This isn't about living in fear of loss. It's about cultivating a mindset that finds joy in what you have right now without clinging to it. When we learn to appreciate without attachment, we create space for peace, even in the face of life's uncertainties. One of the most powerful ways Stoicism teaches us to detach is by helping us release the weight of the past. Think about it. How often do we find ourselves stuck replaying old mistakes, missed opportunities, or regrets? These moments, though long gone, can still feel like chains holding us back. Marcus Aurelius, a renowned Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This reminder of life's fleeting nature isn't meant to scare us, but to shift our focus. Time is precious, and dwelling on what's already happened robs us of the present moment, the only place where we can truly live and act. Consider someone who's held onto the memory of a career setback. Maybe they missed a promotion or made a decision they wish they could undo. Instead of learning from it and moving forward, they've let that moment define them, replaying it endlessly in their mind. Stoicism invites us to see this differently. The past is unchangeable, what's done is done, but what we can change is how we respond to it. By practicing detachment, we're not ignoring our past or pretending it didn't happen. We're simply choosing not to let it control our present or dictate our future. So, what are you holding on to? Is there a moment, a failure, or a regret that's still taking up space in your mind? Take a step back and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to grow rather than letting it hold me back? Detachment isn't about erasing the past, it's about freeing ourselves from its grip so we can focus on what's within our control right now. Now, let's address a common misconception about Stoic detachment. It isn't about cutting yourself off from the world or living in isolation. In fact, Stoicism encourages meaningful and healthy engagement with others. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "What disturbs people's minds is not events but their judgments about events." This applies to relationships too. It's not the people around us who disrupt our peace, it's how we react to them and the expectations we place on those interactions. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, means freeing yourself from emotional dependence on others without disengaging from them entirely. It's about cultivating relationships where you can care deeply without being controlled by the need for approval or fear of rejection. For example, setting clear boundaries in friendships, like saying no when you're overwhelmed, isn't selfish. It's a way to protect your inner peace while still showing up authentically for others. Think about it. How often have you felt drained because you tried to meet everyone's expectations at the expense of your own well-being? This approach doesn't just benefit you, it can actually improve your connections with others. When you're not clinging to every word or worrying about how others perceive you, you're able to engage more genuinely. You become a better listener, a more patient friend, and a more present partner. So, take a moment to reflect. How could practicing this kind of detachment transform the way you relate to the people in your life? How might it help you balance care with self-respect? By embracing Stoic detachment, you're not pushing people away. You're creating space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. It's about finding that sweet spot where you can be fully connected without losing yourself in the process. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean shutting yourself off from the world or numbing your feelings. It's about finding a balance where you can experience life fully without being consumed by it. Stoic detachment teaches us to hold onto our inner peace even when external circumstances feel chaotic. It's not about emptiness, it's about clarity, about creating space to respond rather than react. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our emotions don't have to be dictated by what happens to us, but rather by how we choose to interpret and respond to those events. So, how can you start putting this into practice? Begin small. Take a few moments each day to reflect on what you can control and what you can't. Journaling can be a powerful tool. Here, writing down your thoughts helps you process them more clearly. Or pick one Stoic principle, like focusing on what's within your control, and carry it with you throughout the day. Notice how it shifts your perspective. Stoicism isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about being resilient and grounded. By practicing these principles, you're not losing your emotions, you're gaining mastery over them. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you practice detachment in your own life? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you're ready to dive deeper into Stoic wisdom, consider subscribing for more insights. Remember, the journey to emotional balance starts with a single step, and you've already taken it by being here today.